Hey, what's up everybody? This is Josh Jones, the owner of AGL Discs. We're doing a YouTube video here, Hot Stamping 101. We're coming to you from our warehouse, which is a shared space. So there's a gym a couple warehouses down. So if you hear him telling his guys to push, 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 that's what he's doing. It's not a Lamaze class. Sorry for the intro there. Just wanted to give a big shout out to my friend Ben over at High Pressure Stamps. HPS, High Pressure Stamps, guys, is where I get all of my brass dies from right now. Ordering through those guys for all of the team stuff. There's AGL Discs right there, and I honestly have over 100 different other stamps that we work with different companies, clubs and shops. So we like to get out there and support our players as well. But all of these things are, there's the gym. All of these dies are made by our good friend Ben over at highpressurestamps.com. So please go visit highpressurestamps.com if you guys need any stamps. He also sells the machines, and also, to my understanding, he will be getting in foils available for sale as well. So he's going to be working really hard to be kind of your one-stop shop for stamping needs. So I wanted to give a little breakdown of the things that I go through on a day-to-day basis stamping here at AGL Discs. These are my two presses. This is the larger heat plate here, and this is the smaller heat plate here. There are pros and cons to both. This one can do bottom stamping, but it also cannot do some of the larger stamps that are actually longer or bigger than the actual heat plate itself. So I'll put the larger ones over on this guy. This one's not hot right now, I can touch it. That one is hot, you can see. So first thing first, you turn them on in the back. I set the temperature using the set button, and then the arrows can go up or down. So real quick here, you can see I'll set it to 61 and push set, and then this red will start going back down. So if I set it back up to 62, it'll try to balance out at 62. Sometimes you'll see it go a little higher. That's because it's trying to balance it out. Maybe it cooled down for a moment, so it has to heat back up to get back to 162, just like your air conditioner has to, cool, put out cooler air than actually what you set it to on your thermostat. So what I like to do for temperatures is primarily there's going to be your base plastic or your premium plastic. Let's not get into brands or specifics right now. Let's just go by base or premium plastic, because all of the brands have both a base or a premium plastic, okay? So as much as we want to talk about AGL Discs, let's not focus on that. Today is focusing on high pressure stamps and your guys' stamping. A lot of people have been reaching out to me to get more insight and info on what I do and how I do it. So this video is just a little intro to hot stamping and what we do. So another thing is the machines come with this little side attachment here. This one's screwed on. I do not use it. It's just for show. It's mainly because I don't have an electric foil feed, so even if this thing was going down to be used underneath the machine like so, you would still have to cut it. So what I end up doing is I cut my foil, and here I got a couple different variations of foil which I wanted to show you guys. And the foil does have a huge aspect on how well your stamps come out on your discs. So one thing is we like to use t-shirt foil. So t-shirt foil it works really well. There are certain temperatures we'll get into here in a moment, but it's thicker. It's actually a little thicker foil. Another one that we like to use is a matte foil. Now this isn't quite as thick, but it works really, really well. I have had extremely good luck with matte foils. So I really like the matte foil. And then you get into some of the metallic foils, very, very thin, almost tissue paper thin. So you can have some trouble with these. I've almost had good luck if I've done 2 layers. So we'll do a couple of those, we'll test it out and show you how they kind of work on certain temperatures and certain plastics. So the next big thing is based on the baseline plastic or the premium plastic. I have some ranges in which I keep the temperature. So this temperature for a baseline plastic I usually keep between 162 and 165. If it was very, very firm, you might be able to go a little bit warmer. The thing with baseline is you just can't go as hard, you can't go as long of a pull. you have to be a little quicker with it because you have a tendency to almost burn or really deboss the plastic there. So just be careful of that. And then when we go to our premium plastics, I like to set it a little hotter, which could be anywhere from 168 all the way up to 175. Certain bigger stamps, I've even gone a little bit warmer because there's a bigger surface area. So some of my larger stamps, I've gone as hot as 202. But that's probably the max that I would go to on these smaller machines. But one thing I wanted to point out on these machines, because I have seen a couple of people that have sent in pictures, hey, I got this machine, what can you tell me, can you give me any tips or tricks? But a big thing to look for, guys, is these springs right here, and they're hot. But these springs will help when you actually are pushing down. I don't know if you can see the contraction right here on that bolt head, but that spring contracting down is what's going to give you that push back and actually plant the foil and come back up. I've seen some of the ones that don't have the spring, and I feel like you have to just go like this, and you're going to be the one that is manually lifting it back up. So the springs give you a little bit of resistance, which also help you too in your gauge of how hard you're pushing. So that's one thing that I really liked about working with Ben, was because he was already kind of doing some of this stuff with some of the guys up in Chico, California. So we ordered these from highpressurestamps.com. I think he is running out of the larger ones right now, but he said he's ordering more, and he said he's ordering more foil, but he does have the smaller ones. And honestly, I use the smaller one, I'd say 98% of the time, because it serves the most purposes in regards to being able to do both top and bottom. Again, the only limiting factor about this one is the size of the stamp. And to be dead honest, even on the larger stamp machine here, or the larger heat plate, I can't go much bigger than 3 inches. If you start going bigger than 3 inches on these little machines in general, you're gonna have some fallout, you're gonna have some dropout, whatever you wanna call it, miss stamps, X outs, whatever. So you will incur some of that. So just watch out. And as you see here, we're kind of starting to nestle down right at our perfect temp. So that brings me into our next little tidbit here, is our supports. These have been called supports, they've been called nests. I've heard them called a lot of different things, so I just call them support. But one thing I did do, which helps, is I put a little bit of this, you can buy silicone heat mats on Amazon, they're dirt cheap. I had used a lot of strips, so this is all I had left, but I'll get to it here in a second. But I cut a little strip and I put it down here on the plate, so that way when I put my support in, kind of gives a little bit better grip. So see, it's not sliding around as much, which is helpful when stamping. You don't want anything moving really if you don't need it moving. So another thing though with these guys is that it's all cut from the same piece of wood. So I cut, it's a 3/4 inch thick oak, solid oak, and my buddy Jason helped me with the jigsaw. And what we did was certain ones will work for certain molds. I've kind of made one that's a very generic one that works for like all Innova and Discraft and stuff like that. And some of our smaller discs too, as a bonsai, it had a smaller diameter on the inside of the flight plate. And then some of our larger ones like the cedar, locust, and ivy. And I mean, if you want to go real crazy with it, which I don't use too much because this one can do it as well. But this is like mids basically. So this is a larger one that has a larger diameter for mids, which we won't necessarily use today, but you can if you were really having issues with your mid or the disc that you were stamping, whatever. You know, having a proper nest that fits it will definitely give you the most support, and that's why I call it a support. So the other thing is the reason why I like to use the heat pad, as you can see it right here, and this is from letting others use our stamp machine. So I've put a heat press or a silicone heat mat down, and I very carefully laid out tape, almost OCD pattern of making sure that it's very flat and very straight. So what I do though is this kind of heat plate balances out any abnormalities that might be on the bottom, maybe a little extra flashing. I did grab this one for a reason, but where the injection molding comes in, sometimes that can give just a little bit of height pushing up on the solid support. So having these heat mats kind of give a little bit of give in regards to the disc when pushing down with so much pressure. So what I try to do is always angle this as kind of my landing zone for my stamp. So, you know, if I'm gonna put the disc in here and I want the stamp over in this area, I'm gonna make sure that it's over that little heat mat. I wouldn't wanna stamp it like this because then it's gonna be halfway on the heat mat and halfway off the heat mat back there. So just be careful of that, and maybe I could buy another heat mat and cut it the right circle. I probably will do that. But this has been working for me, and as long as I'm just careful about lining it up. So we're gonna go ahead and line it up, and what I'll do is I'll show a couple of pulls on this one here. One thing is really I'm particular about is making sure that you have these really well secured. So these are both affixed to this little wooden skid here, and then I've screws through the thing to make sure that the legs are actually supported under each foot of the leg here. So it's very solid, but I still always hold my left hand on the top here whenever coming down with the press. So yeah, based on those sizes of the woods, we also had one for minis and acorns. Sorry, I forgot to touch on that. We'll stamp one of those here momentarily. So I'll line up, you know, what I want to stamp and how I want to stamp it. Right now I have a stamp in there, and we have it set up for our baseline plastic, which, like I said, is around 162 to 165. So stamping the disc, because of the rim, and there is a little bit of curvature just before the rim there. On this particular disc, there's actually a thumb groove, which you can maybe see on this disc. It's our Madrone. But you know, all of those can you know, give you some dropout or some misstamps. So just be careful of that. I try to tell people there's a kind of magic area in the middle of your disc, and this is really cool with the circle around it. You know, you're almost staying in that circle right there, which is really cool. Bottom stamping, obviously, if you have some embossment on the bottom like Gateway does, you know, that might get in the way, but you still have a little bit of room going around the side here. So we'll do a top stamp and we'll do a bottom stamp. What we'll try to do is, let's see if we can line up the stamp right along the A here, and we'll see if we can get kind of straight and OCD with it. I'm not going to go too long. All right. So I get it as low as I could without touching the disc, so that way I can find the right spot and make sure that it's, you know, lined up correctly. We're going to go ahead and let's just use the silver one here with the diamond, you know, diamond print, and we'll stamp that on there. Okay, and it's perfect right at 162. So I'm going to hold my left hand here. It's right on the nest. I have the heat mat underneath as my landing zone. So all things are ready. The only other thing I'd say is make sure you don't close your fist, because when you come down, you might actually hit your hand on the disc. So I keep my hand open like this when coming down to do the stamp, okay? So here we go. We'll come in, and you want to give it 1 second, okay? So we'll do 1 solid second. 1. Okay, and a nice pull like that usually comes out pretty dang clean. I did use a little excess of foil here. I usually am pretty conservative, but you can see that came out really, really nice. Hyzer disc golf right there, perfect. And sometimes I'd have to do a little finger wipe like that to remove any excess or, you know, little flakes or something like that. So we did that one, and you know, if you do have enough foil, you can still use that same foil for another stamp. So let's go ahead and try to do a bottom stamp here. So bottom stamp, just gonna line it up again. Now I have to be a little more careful because of that the foil. Alright, I'm not going to hit the already pressed area. We're 1 degree, it says 163, that's okay. Like I said, between 162 and 165. And that time, because the rim is pointing upward, the handle did hit the rim. So that's another reason why I said to have my hand open. If I had my hand in a fist, I might actually have pushed my disc really hard and moved the thing inward. So that came out really clean as well. So again, it comes down to the temperature and timing, and making sure that you have a nice solid flat area, and being consistent with your press. I think that is huge in regards to coming out with a clean stamp. Now when you go to a larger stamp, which we can try, I'll show you how to switch out the dye and whatnot as well. One thing that maybe you can't see. Let's see if I can pop it out of this one. Is the washer. So typically this machine does not come with the washer right there. So when you take your die with the bolt on the back, and you mount it up through this little slit, you can kind of start to see the bolt come up there. What would happen on my first one that I started using, there wasn't a washer to support it, and this little nut kept getting slammed down into the little groove, and I ended up having to buy a very small kind of semicircle file here and go up through the thing and actually file down and file downward as well, some of where this groove was. And I thought to myself, how could I alleviate that issue? And so I got a washer. So that way now every time I load the new die up, I just put the washer on top of that, and then I'll put the bolt on that one as well. And that makes it so there's less pressure on a smaller surface area. It spreads out the pressure on the washer. So I did buy a couple of these washers, so I have some backups and leftovers. But that is really important to make sure you increase the longevity of the life, of your stamp machine here. So when changing a die, let's go ahead and change the die. Okay, let's switch it out to, let's see, which one is decent size here? We'll find the sapling. Where's the sapling one? Okay, I can't find it. Let's grab that. Oh, there it is. All right, so we'll grab the sapling, which is a pretty big one. It is almost the full size of that one there. So this one can give some dropout. It also is very solid. There's not a lot of line area. It's very solid. The letters are solid. The plant area is solid. So in order to have the kind of best luck with the solid ones, I'll show you how sometimes we have to go a little bit hotter to create the heat all the way across the full surface of the die. But you know what? I did mention that we would do a stamp with the very thin, and let's do one with the matte as well. So matte, honestly, not a huge change in regards to temperature or pull. Really, matte is, like I said, very user-friendly and easy. They have some great matte foils, a Great Western foil, and also Liberty foil has some other great foils in matte color. 1 second. Okay, let's take a look at that matte white. Matte white looks really cool. And so you know what? I may have pushed a little too hard there, because right by where the D and the G are, it's pretty deep. I can feel it's a little deeper right there. So I pushed a little too hard on that one. And that's fine, it still came out really good, and someone's gonna like that still. But you know, even if after a long time and you wipe, the foil will eventually wipe away. You'll still see hyzer dies because it's almost burned into the plastic there. So that's what can happen if you go a little too hard. So we're gonna try it out with the thinnest of the foil, which is gonna be the red one. We'll put it over on this side. So again, I'm gonna keep that landing zone there. I'll turn this guy to that direction, get it low so I can kind of line up my area. And like I said, with super thin foil, I'll even cut a second little strip. We double up because it will actually burn the red foil, and it'll burn it into the plastic, and it won't lay it properly. So here, let's give it a shot. Doubled up. And I guarantee you that came out a lot better because I doubled it up. So if I just done one, here we can do a sample. If you want to do a sample of just one, let's do it up. You see what one looks like. We'll do one with the same time frame, which has been about 1 second. For those of you remembering and listening. One. Oh, came out pretty good. It got a little bit of burn right on the top there, so just a hair. but because it's so thin, it almost didn't provide that extra layer, and that's why I did 2 on this one, and it came out so much smoother. Whereas this, you can hear where my nail catches on it. So it's definitely thinner, and that's why I've just learned that having some of the thinner ones, this blue that I have is very thin as well, and it comes down to the supplier, guys, like who you're getting it from. So a lot of times I get sent samples. I get sent these samples of, you know, this one looks really cool. It's a slow transition rainbow. Really cool. I haven't tried it out yet. These are all samples from another company. They just, you know, sent me a couple different golds. You know, this feels really thin. This one feels a little thicker. So they're all different, and I'll try them out and get those out of the way. But realistically, I've found a couple of good companies that I like to work with. Great Western, I don't have their card with me, but it's usually inside. It's inside most of these. Great Western, 866-478-3645. That's their phone number. And then A-Magic, which is, they're another great company, A-Magic, and they're the ones who have a lot of cool designs. But some of those cool designs may give you some issues in regards to stamping. A-Magic is 714-897-3978, and I'll put the links in the description as well, just so that way you guys have those. Okay, so we're just about finishing up here on the baseline. So I'm going to show you guys how we switch out a die. We'll go to a larger die, and we'll try the larger die on the cedar and the premium plastic, and we'll show how we change the temp. Okay, so first thing first is another big thing I love to have, your proper tools. One of the things I use is most of these dies come with either a metric 7 or a metric 8 bolt or nut. So I have a metric 7 and a metric 8 wrench, but they are socketing wrenches, which makes it very, very easy for when you have to reach inside this hot thing, you know, and unscrew. Oh, that's an 8. That would help if I had the right size. And another big ticker, let's have a glove. I got these welding gloves, which is really great because obviously they can withstand the heat. So I can just barely loosely hold it with 1 or 2 fingers right there. Loosen it just up enough to get it to pull. Right, it can slide now in the little groove till the edge. And then I've kind of developed a little callus on my thumb from just spinning the nut off the top there. And then you let it drop, and it's great to have those heat mats too because they falls right on the heat mat. You're not going to burn anything. And then I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's sheet metal. I have a 1 foot by 1 foot square piece of sheet metal because this hot Heiser die stamp would burn right through my plastic. There's actually some imprints on my wood here where I used to put them. So what I started doing was buying a piece of sheet metal, and the sheet metal is very helpful to make sure that my hot dies don't burn through my work table here. Obviously, you could buy a stainless steel work table or a solid wood work table. It's not going to burn through that. Might make a little burn impression, but it won't burn through the wood. All right, so we just took out that die. Let's go ahead and put the big sapling die in here. I should keep my glove on. That would probably be wise. You guys don't want to see me get burned on YouTube. All right, so I put the sapling stamp right up in there through the washer, and then I carefully, without my fingers touching, see, without my fingers touching anything, try to just, you know, get the first couple threading on that bolt, you know, very loosely and gently slide that thing down. So now I can slide the sapling stamp in. Now, the sapling stamp is actually just as tall as this is deep, so it's going edge to edge. So it is, like I said, guys, a larger stamp here. So now this one is a 7, so I'll do a couple just to get it started, and then I can take my socketing side, and oop, that's loose. We want to go righty-tighty. There we go. And guys, you don't need to crank this in there and get it super duper tight. It just needs to be tight. The press will do the rest. Okay. So let's see if we could do a big stamp on the baseline plastic. We're running out of space, so we're gonna do it probably over. We'll probably do it over the numbers, okay? But hey, you know, we're having fun. So I'm going to put the landing zone is going to be right there in that little desired area. So now I can switch it or turn it. I'm going to just keep it, like I said, just over those. And boy, I'm getting close to the rim. We're pushing a lot of boundaries here, but we like to live dangerously, right? So let's do it. Okay, I'm going to line it up as straight as I can. And then we're going to go with a good solid foil, one that we always have good luck with. We'll go with the Great Western Rainbow. How's that? We just showed you guys the rainbow. Let's use it. All right, I'm going to be a little loose with my foil here. So baseline plastic, it has, I'm going to heat it up just a tad to that max of the baseline plastic. Again, this is so that the heat can spread out throughout the whole surface area of the stamp, the AGL sapling stamp. So it's right at 165. It might even go up 1 or 2 more, okay? So I'm going to give it a press right now, and I might go just like a hair over 1 second, okay? And that's to ensure that the whole stamp presses and it presses clean. And let's see if I can pull it off. So there we go. It looks pretty good, and that's what's cool. And someone's asked me, you know, do you have to wait or do you have to pull it a certain way? No, it's just like a Band-Aid, just rip it off. So look at that. Very, very well. There is just a tiny, tiny, tiny little dot on the leaf. So I think that is also right where it's starting to curve into the thumb track right there. So it's, you know, it's pushing some boundaries, like I said. But it came out really good, actually. It looks really good. That is not a bad pull, you know, overall, especially considering it's on baseline plastic and we're getting so dang close to the rim. So this bigger one, again, it wouldn't be able to get on the bottom because of the gateway embossing, but we can do the bottom stamp on the cedar, which we will go ahead and do. Okay, so when we're going to go to the premium plastic, we're going to go ahead and turn this guy up to at least 168 to 172, I told you guys. So the 168 is on the low end of that side. Because it's a little bit larger stamp, I might actually go up to like 172, okay? And that's, again, just kind of how I gauge it, is based on the size of the stamp. So now we're going to be doing the sapling on the cedar. We'll do a top and bottom on this one. So see, I'll reuse some of that foil. Now I like using the sapling maybe over in this clear area, you know, up in this clear area, there's a little bit more negative space up there. So we'll go ahead and see if we can get that in that area. So I'll line up my landing zone of that heat mat right here. And I can rotate my disc now, knowing you can almost see the heat mat. I'm trying to hit it right there on that heat mat. So here, maybe even do a little bit better spin. Perfect. All right, now we'll line up the sapling on the disc. The Domi sycamore, or cedar, excuse me. All right, let's do something fun. How about Wonder Bread, huh? The Wonder Bread, excuse me, colorful dots. All right, let's give it a go. So I went a hair longer than 1 second, again, because it's a bigger stamp. Wow, just a hair on that leaf. But wow, that came out really, really good. Looks great, okay? So we can do a bottom stamp on this one too. Let's do that. Lining it up, get it straight. Let's do another fun one. Let's see. How about we do this really cool green? Really cool for the sapling. So this is a hollow green, which is I really like. It's cool. So slide that in. Yeah, and I this is such a big, taller one that, look at it's getting close to where the rim curves outward like that, going up back. So see the A right there started getting a little loose. So it happens, guys, it really does. And that's where, you know, it just being that the disc, you can see the flight plate isn't as flat. This thing curves, and as it's getting closer to the rim right here, it's curving outward like that. So having a flatter area, obviously when the press pushes it down, it's going to flatten it out like that, but it still is a curved area. So having a die which takes up less height, you know, and less width, you know, that's where I found to be under 2 inches the best, and under about 1.5 inches width. So I mean, like, this is pushing the limits of that. You know, it's taller and wider. So just be careful when ordering the dies. I think personally I like to stay in that 2 inch, the 1 to 2 inch. Some of the best ones that we've had, you know, that like seem to always work. The chain bang one always works. The AJL prototype one always works. It's so small. Shout out to Disc Dots. You know, they have such a great logo, and it's super easy to stamp. It made it very great. I don't think I've had a single dropout on the Disc Dot logo. So we're including something on the AJL website, which is going to have stamp kind of guidelines and tips and tricks on, you know, if you were trying to make your own stamp, how you can work with your graphic designer to make something that's going to be more easily stamped. So that's something to think about as well when you're doing that. So guys, the big takeaways here, you know, we talked about the companies that we go through for the foils. We talked about the company that I like to use for my machines, for the actual stamps themselves, the die. They call these a die. It's a brass die. We call it a stamp. So it's a brass die. Those HPS, highpressurestamps.com. You can hit up Ben. You can call him, email him. I believe he's got all of his contact info on his page. And let's see, what else can we do? Let's do, how about this? I just thought of a fun one as I look down at our saplings. Let's do a sapling on the sapling, right? So we talked about our wood. This is 3/4 inch thick oak. I honestly just bought an oak shelf. You know, it was a 4 foot long shelf. And then I cut squares, and then I measured out the diameter of the flight plate, and I had my buddy Jason Lane, shout out to Jason Lane, help me with his jigsaw. So he was able to cut these to size. Ordering these from Amazon to make sure you have the heat mats to help you with grip, to make sure you have help with heat, to make sure you have the help with a little bit of give on that pressure, to help balance out some of the injection molding inserts or flashing if there is any. We talked about how you want to make sure you're safe and having the proper tools like this, or having your welding glove, which obviously you don't want to get burned. I've been burned a couple knuckle burns here and there, just being quick or fast and reaching in here to grab my disc or move my disc, and my knuckles caught it. So, you know, having the right tools as well, like these guys, making sure that your machine is proper and everything's tight and set up, ready to go. I actually have a torque wrench for these to make sure that these are set to the right, you know, setting. And you know, because if you had one of these tighter than this one, obviously it's going to push more down on one side or one corner. So you want to make sure that these are level. So I even bought a mini magnetic level, and I put it on each side, and I made sure that it's level. I mean, guys, I went above and beyond to make sure that I have eliminated all of the variables that go into stamping like this. So when you guys are trying to do this, hopefully this video can help eliminate some of those variables for you as well. So let's go ahead and have some fun at the end of the video here. If anyone's sticking around, we'll have a sapling. It's obviously already stamped. We have our our cutout for it, and obviously it's not a perfect circle. He used a jigsaw, and we just kind of sanded it down. But look, it works in the mini. It works in most minis, I will say. And so the sapling stamp here is actually larger than the one that's in there, because we do it on a different machine. We have a very large 5-ton Kensal 46T press at our other facility, which is my house in the big garage. And that's where we stamp all of the stock stamps on the discs, and some of the larger mini stamps that we have as well. The acorn is done here, which we have a bunch of acorns. Those are really fun. If you guys don't know, these actually are soda can or adult beverage toppers. So they snap right onto your favorite soda, and that way if you had it in your disc golf bag that you won't spill when you're walking, it just, you know, acts like a topper. So that's really cool as well. But let's go ahead and stamp these saplings. Let's go do it, we'll do it perpendicular to the current one, okay? And let's go with, how about, they had a cool kind of flower design on there. What if I went with roses? So we go flowers and roses, you know? Let's make it fun. All right, so we'll line it up. Let's see, I think I didn't get it deep enough though. It's lined up left and right, but not deep enough. That looks good. Okay. So you slide in the rose foil without moving the disc. Oh, and this is set for premium plastic. Good eye. Let that cool down. So here's a little secret. If it's too hot and you need to switch back to baseline plastic, little duster. Watch that thing cool down real quick. Blew my foil away, but that's okay. Watch, it's gonna start going down. Cool. There that, go down. Like I said, as long as we're around 165, we'll be fine. So we'll give that a moment. But yeah, guys, there's so many different foils out there. My wife has spent, you know, a good amount of time researching and looking up different foils. You know, they have all sorts of ones with stars inside there. You know, there's leopard print. And what's really cool too is most of these companies, just to let you know, most of these companies, when you buy them, they come in a very, very long roll. Okay, so they'll come, I don't even think we've used that. So this is the purple laser. That one's pretty cool. So they come in a longer roll than this, actually. They come in a 24 or 25 inch long roll. So then they cut them down into sizes. And you know, I have backups of the sizes, so they'll cut. I usually do, because of the big machine that we have, I usually have the companies cut them at 6 inches, 6 inches, and then I get 2 3.5 inches as well. Yeah, so it's 6, 6, 6. So it's 3 6ers and 2 3.5s. So 18 plus the 7. So there you go. There's your 25. So that's kind of how we like to do it, and we have them cut like that for us. And then I get these really nice smaller rolls, which we can use for the smaller machines. So it really works out for us, you know, when we do that. But ultimately, you know, you're going to have to find out what works best for you. So this thing has cooled down now lower than what it was, so it's going to start going back up here in a moment. So maybe I used a touch more than I should have on the duster. Let's give it a go. Yay! Come on, jump up there. If now here's another thing on the Converse, right? Like we were talking about, if the die is too large, you want to go a little bit bigger. Well, let's say you have baseline plastic and it's cooling down, you could go a little longer because it's cooler. So there's, you know, there's another end of the spectrum. If it is cooler, you could push harder and it won't burn it as much. So let's give it a go. That actually looks like it came out pretty good. Pull that off. Yeah, wow. So see, there might be a little dropout, and it's because the pink is coming up through that one. That's actually really cool. I lined that up. Perfect. Awesome. So sometimes great things can happen with a cool mistake. And then this obviously will not fit the sapling. So what we could do is we could switch it out, and let's add a team one on it. We can add a team. We'll put the team stamp in there. We'll add a team stamp to the acorn real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. And obviously this is just Hot Stamp 101. We'll do another one. We'll get more into it. Maybe we could do one on the big machine. Obviously, if you guys have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on AGL Discs, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. We're here to help. We're very reachable, attainable, you know, whatever. Obtainable, however you want to say it. You know, we're here to help you guys. We definitely believe in being transparent and having an open book, and you know, not having secrets. You know, it's like there's no point in that. I think collaboration is key, and you know, I joke about it, but look at all the best rappers out there, you know, they got good and they got big because they worked with everybody and they were open to working with anybody. And I think that's huge. And, you know, it's what we need in this disc golf community in order to grow the sport. But obviously hot stamps could be used for anything. You know, you could be stamping wood, plastic, paper bags. You know, look at Jake Hunter. He stamps everything and anything under the sun. I love Jake Hunter. He stamps like leather, and he stamps clothing and all sorts of stuff. You know, napkins he did for a wedding one time. So, you know, there's so much potential out there for a machine. And I think, you know, it comes down to all of us and our tenacity and our drive in order to take something like this. Turned into what it is because I just wanted to learn. I knew I was buying the big machine, so I said, how could I teach myself, you know, temperature, timing, placement, stuff like that? How can I, you know, get familiar with the machine and how things work? Well, I, you know, reached out to someone who was selling this, and Ben and I linked up and became friends, and next thing you know, we had 4 or 5 stamps, and next thing you know, I had, you know, a drawer. We have drawers full of stamps. So these are all just options that we have, you know, in regards to, like, these are our team players. So like all of our pro players have their own name in there, which is really cool, and they can add that to their disc, or someone else could add it to their disc, you know. And we've even gone as far as to be dumb and to try getting a big one because it was as big as this one. That's when we learned the hard way that, you know, it just won't work. So yeah, you're gonna have fun with it. There's gonna be a lot of trial and error. You know, you're gonna probably have some burnt knuckles. You know, make sure you get the tools that we just kind of went over and talked about. Make sure you've, you know, created a safe environment where you're not gonna burn anything, drop anything. You know, have a surge protector on your you know, dedicated line. So that way you're not going to be worrying about burning down the house or anything like that. So, you know, guys, I come from a background where it's, you know, measure twice, cut once, you know, kind of thing. So, this is that cool reflective gradient silver I just had lying around, and it happens to be the right size, so we're going to use it. All right, so we're stamping an acorn here. I may have not lined it up the best. I was a little fast with that, but we got AGL and part of the D is missing and part of the team is missing. So I was probably a little fast with that. Maybe we could try getting another better one here. Let's see. All right, let's give it a go. That's not big enough. Let's go here. Let's do Captain America. Stars. Mike Lehman's turning over. Very nice. Hey, look, if the foil kind of pops up like that because it's such a small sheet, watch what happens when you get the thing down close to it. The foil starts to settle. I'm only about a ½ inch above the foil, and the foil just flattened out. The heat from the heat plate will actually just make the foil settle and adhere to the disc. Yeah, still on the team. AGL and disc came out better, but not the team. So, all right, I might have to work on that. I'm starting to see it. Looks like maybe the heat plate or the heat mat just below the tape there may have slid. You can almost see the little outline of it. So I might have to realign that one. See, there's always something to do. There's always something to fix. If you're starting to have a couple of dropouts in a row, then you might need to address it. So I might take this tape off and get a piece of that heat mat here and literally just cut a full circle out along the top. And I should get another heat mat. So again, guys, this was Hot Stamping 101. So if you guys have any questions, please, again, don't hesitate to reach out. It's info@AGLDiscs or discflickers@gmail.com. So obviously you have the phone numbers on there as well, but I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. And hopefully this was helpful. Thanks again, guys. Bye.